Hello, welcome back to Naughty Boy Nation. Today we're reviewing the new Avatar movie, Avatar Aang. I finally watched it over the weekend and I got around to making a review of it. I really enjoyed this movie. It was really good. The storyline is fantastic. I really loved the villain. I think his name is Tiger. He's another airbender, but I really enjoy him and Aang like parallels throughout the movie. This movie also is really great seeing the cast again, but as older versions of themselves, because we never actually got like adult versions of the gang. We did get a small flashback in Korra, but overall we only really seen them as elderly folks or as children. This is the first time we get to see them as adults. We are also probably at the prime of their power. But yeah, seeing them again was really fun and really delightful. Uh, that being said, overall, I really enjoyed this movie, and I would recommend for everyone who is a big fan of the animated show to actually go see this movie because it is a really fun movie. It does justice to the characters that you loved in the cartoon, and you get to see them all older, dealing with new problems that arises. Uh, that being said, this is probably the non. That's my overall review of the movie. However, I want to talk about this movie more, but in a more spoiler context. So, if you don't want to get spoiled, uh, I would recommend see the movie and then coming back because it's a fantastic movie. But now, getting into spoiler territory. I'm gonna go over the few things that did arrive for me first. There's more nitpicks, but overall, I could say said before I really did like the movie. Uh, my first, this is just a really small nitpick because I do think the voice cast for this movie did a really good job at portraying the characters. That being said, it was sort of disappointing that we didn't get the original voice actors back, considering now they're all adults, so it would make sense for them to cast them as the characters they used to play when they were kids. But uh, as I said before, the actual voice cast that did in did a very good job. But it's just sort of sad that you don't get the original voices because of I don't know why you don't get the original voices, but it just would have been nice to sort of get that as well. It would be a lot more nostalgic. It took me a little bit to get used to the new voices, but probably by like 5 or 10 minutes in, I was totally with the new voices. Um, that being said, another nitpick is where the hell is Suki? Suki is like not in this movie at all. There might be a thing at the end because there was a Koshi Warriors at the end of the movie, and maybe that's Suki, but she doesn't get any lines, and she's like just a picture frame while like the credits are rolling. And I'm just wondering, considering Suki Ahsoka, I feel like are the most developed relationship in the actual old show. This that had not been in the movie I found really strange, especially considering at least I feel by the end of the OG show, she was a member of Team Avatar. Like she helped a lot in the final battle. She literally was in a relationship with Sokka. She literally went on journeys with the Avatar gang. Just for her not to be in this movie where like Aang goes on everyone to help. I found that very strange, but like again, that's another small nitpick. The last sort of thing I had was some of the comedy in this movie didn't work for me. Some of it did, but that I think more times than not, I think some of the comedy just didn't work for me. I felt a bit flat. Um, I think they were trying to get like the old vibe of the show because the old show is as funny is very funny as well with a lot of the jokes that they had. I just think, especially now that they're older, some of the jokes didn't land as well as they could have. But there are still some funny moments throughout this movie. Famously, them all seeing whether Tiger's hot or not is pretty funny. Um, Also, Shoka having new Shoka being doubted as like, oh, he was a member of Team Avatar, like a board member by those children he was like talking to. That was funny as well. So there are some moments that did hit with the comedy, but I think overall, for me, it wasn't it wasn't as funny. Some of the most of the comedy did feel flat. That being said, that's really all my negatives. A few of them were just like nitpicks of like things I wished the movie would have done instead of like how good the movie was. So really, there was only one real criticism I had. Now getting to the good stuff. Uh, the first thing I want to talk about is the fights. The fight is as good or even better than they were in the OG show. Like one of the reasons I love Avatar: The Last Airbender was the fights. The fights were so good. And the biggest thing I was worried about was will the fights be as good as they were in the old show? And the fights are definitely as good, maybe even better. The motion, the fights, how fluid they are. There's so many great fights in the show. The first fight with Aang versus the Knight, that fight is really cool, really fun. You get to see how Pandas fight against the Avatar. Then you get to see. I think my favorite fight though in this movie is Tiger versus Team Avatar when he like somehow rapes out Katara, Toph, Ashoka, Atsuko. He like kills them apart from Katara, who like luckily that's the one he didn't kill because if he sees the one that died, then no one else is coming back. But like I'm actually surprised he was managed to take out three like bending masters without even the power of the staff. But that shows how strong he is. But I also think that also shows like I think we as fans have a tendency to over hype Team Avatar with how powerful they are. And I feel like maybe like some fights we always think, oh, Team Avatar stomps like Toph stomps this enemy solo. May not be as true after seeing Tiger like destroy Team Avatar. That being said, he does have like 1,000 years of experience of airbending on his side. So he's also technically, I would probably consider a airbending master, while the others are also masters. But it's still he won the 4-on-1 fight. Uh, yeah, but so yeah, the fights are really good in the show. I really enjoyed the fights in this movie. Is I also like the fight at the end is about like two people wanted to bring back the Air Nation community. However, one wants to do it by taking away other people's ability to dance and making them all airbended. Well, Aang wants to do it while working with each other. But like Taika, I do understand like Taika is a great villain because of his motivation of like what he's seen in the past. Like he's seen He's seen that the nations cannot work well, and history has provided it time and time again. In his era, the Earth nation was like hunting airbenders and slaughtering them. In Aang's era, it was the Fire Nation. In multiple eras, different benders, different tribes, different nations have tried to be the superior one. So he's saying, so him being like there should only be one bending, one nation. that makes really that makes sense, and you can see his point of view. That being said, and you also see how much he cares for Aang. Like he wants to fight with Aang, and he only goes against him because Aang won't allow allow his way to happen. But like you can see like the heart he has in his eyes while he's in this movie about him making decisions, which I think is really great. Um, but also he can be like really dark and menacing when he needs to be. Like his line of like, "Oh, Aang is a powerful. He's great, but he also has his weakness." And then he looks at Katara like, "You're his weakness," and tries to kill her. That was so dope. Him as a villain is like a very dope villain. I do even like the how he like becomes corrupted by the staff, by the spirit. And then he also the fun thing is Aang gets corrupted as well in the movie, and you get to see sort of like a more destructive version of Aang. But you sort of saw something similar in the first book, where you see him sort of get taken over by the water spirit. And also, a really great fun fact is the water spirit actually would dance in this movie because they're all trapped on the turtle island where you see a bunch of sea turtles that all go to this place to die. And this is where the staff is, and which is really cool lore about the sea turtles. No, I don't know the sea turtles, are the lion sea turtles, right? With the good, the turtle that taught Ang how to spirit bend and take away Osai power. You get to see a bunch of them, and that's where the staff is buried. So they have to make their way there, and you get a really cool moment while they're making their way there, while they're going through the storm, and like you get to see like it's not technically flying, but you get to see like Aang and Tiger using their power to sort of fly, help each other fly through the like storm, and that's really cool. And they're clearing these thunder and storm, and that's like a really great scene. You also get to get like really great tension between Aang and the rest of team Avatar because the rest of team Tiger is sort of like doing some shady thing, and because Aang is like so into his own world of like finally there's another airbender alive, he sort of neglected without meaning to the safety of his friends. Like he puts his friends in danger like multiple times in this movie on the trust of Taika, and even when they're like saying, "Hey, what you're doing is messed up," he's sort of still trying to defend the Taika until the realization comes and like, oh, Tiger is actually a bad guy and we have to book them down. Another thing, the movie I actually think does better than the OG show is Katara and Aang relationship. I think is way better in this movie, and you get to see a more romantic, a better dynamic in this movie than you really get to see in the show. Like in the show, I was never a Shuko or Katara room shipper, but I was also not really a Ang or Katara. Like for me, in the show, like the room, it wasn't that well developed. Like it was cool that he gets Katara by the end of the show, but realistically, like as a strong relationship, I would have said that. The only relationship I actually think was pretty strong in the show was Shoka Asuki, which why I was surprised she wasn't in this movie. But I do think in this movie, Katara and relationship is shown very well, and you get to see the romantic relationship strengthen in this movie, and that's really nice to see. Um, but yeah, this the reason why this movie works is you get to see Aang dealing with being the last airbender and his desire to find more airbenders out there to try and keep the history of airbending, but also like him and Tiger sort of have to have the same character arc, and that is forgiving themselves, forgiving their failures. Like Aang ran away from the temple as a kid, and so many, and he basically let all his people die. Um, I take also good to protect his people against the war against the Earth Nation, so he saw all his people get slaughtered. And is both of them have to forgive and let go of the mistakes they made. And this movie, you get to see Ang Johnny or like letting go and forgiving himself, which is really great to see. And it sort of like deals with like the survivor's guilt that Ang went through. Um, I also another cool thing is in the we get to see two new avatars. I think Shoma is the main avatar we see. That's the Airbending avatar that used the staff to give non-benders airbending powers because Tiger was originally a non-bender who got given airbending powers, and then he gives airbending powers to the Denied, which I think is really cool. And it makes sense why the Denied are going after their staff because the Denied are a bunch of non-benders that think they were being unfair. Like you got all these benders with power, and like they are like the weakest one, and they need bending to sort of stand up against the other benders, which honestly, if you watch see soccer, you don't need it. You just need good creativity, and you can do anything. If you're a good warrior, you could probably take down benders. Um, I mean, soccer with its invention is able to take down a bunch of denied while they have uh, airbending powers. We also by the end of this movie, I really think I loved is well, there is no new airbenders. You get to see like the airbending culture still live on because now people are like learning the culture of airbenders, even if they're not actual airbenders. And that's something like well, they're building new Republic City. Uh, by the end of the movie, they rebuild. They basically build a temple for the Air Nation, that has all the cultures of Aang's people there, which is really cool. I think that temple is the temple that Korra trains at when she's getting trained to pay attention. I could be wrong, but I think that's the temple that Korra trains at. Um, Also, the Night are really fun bunch of villains. I kind of wish that we got to see more of like Team Avatar. And we get to see like a show of them as adults dealing with the problems, especially against the night, but also other problems that we get to see Team Avatar as adults fight against. I think that would be really cool, especially because I think everyone thinks Aang is the best the best Avatar. We all got a big nostalgia, so seeing like adult version of Aang series, I think that would be a really fun take. And you got like the some villains still around that you could like have as a show. But like that what this movie made me really want. It made me want a team Avatar show as them as adults. But yeah, that sort of knows like you made a great movie because I'm craving more Team Avatar. Um, that being said, I sort of read on a tangent. Going back to Soma, like the new Avatar, learning like she's sort of locked herself away because she's in such a form of like regret. She's in a different place to the other like previous avatars. And Aang was only able to find her was because he was deep in guilt and regret for not listening to his team. and he thought he got Kadara and everyone killed, and that's how he was able to speak to Shoma. And by the end of the movie, Shoma is able to forgive herself as well, as she's able to like be what the rest of the Avatar are. I'm also wondering, another tangent, with the new Avatar series, Seven Havens, do you think Korra is in the same place as Avatar Sompa? Because if Korra did destroy the round, I assume she has a lot of regret. So it would be cool if Korra was actually in the same place as Sompa, and like part of the mission of, I think Buffy is the new Avatar name. She has to sort of free Korra from the burden she created. Uh, that's just a tangent, but yeah, we got to see. So yeah, we got to see Shumba saying, "Oh no, Taika is like a betrayer, betrayed him. He sort of changed after he saw what the Earth nation did to his people, and he became cool." And so once Aang finds that, he wakes up at Katara because Katara healed him, and then they all go to New Republic City to fix that, to protect it, because Taika wants to destroy it, because that city is a nation of where everyone comes together. And it doesn't matter what nation you're from. In that city, you're a family. You are a team. So that's why like Taika wants to destroy the nation. And then you get the final fight, which I've already talked about, where you have Aang forgiving himself for his mistake. And you have also Taika forgiving himself. And you get to see like he's bringing he's bringing something from the spirit world in, and he's trying to collapse it on top of New Republic City. I'm trying to think. I think he's bringing like Shompa, like the old ancient temples home that I think Shompa put in the spirit world. I think he's bringing that back to the to, to the route, at he's going to put it on top of New Republic City, and Aang and the gang stop that. And you get to see some really cool stuff. Cool fights. Katara gets sort of like a talk no Jushu moment with her sort of convincing one of the members of the night to, you got the power now. Now it's up to you how you want to use that. Do you want to be like a monster, or do you want to help people? And that the night decides to help people. And then she's also one of the first person to be, I don't know what you call them, because they're not airbenders, but they're part of like Aang's culture. Like she's one of the first to learn his culture of being the ropes. But I don't know what you would call them. Like monks, are nomads. Maybe I think you call them nomads. But yeah, that's I think about everything in this movie. There is some cool thing where by the end of the movie, you get to see like because our patients are meant to be raped out, but um, Aang is sort of like discovers an area where, oh, maybe there's could still be airbenders or patients alive, and he goes there by the end of the movie, and you get to see there's still a lot of patients still alive and still kicking around at full peace, which is really cool to see. And it's sort of like, oh, not all of his culture raped out. The patients still exist, and you get to see Abba like go towards them and sort of play with them by the end of the movie, which is really fun. I will say Abba did betray us this movie. I was surprised that Abba betrayed us, because I don't know if Taika like mind control or was it done out of fear, but like once he kills Ang, he Tiger then goes to Appa and like is able to ride him. I don't know if he's riding him like forcefully, like he's like threatening Appa or like controlling Appa with like a leash or something, like a leash. But like I was surprised that Appa would have left everyone and just allowed Tiger to take him out. That being said, they quickly actually save Appa. Like, I don't even think you get to see Kadara and everyone save Appa, but like, you do get to see a scene of like them all riding Appa again. So presumably he got saved. But yeah, uh, that was but yeah, that's my entire movie review of Avatar Aang. Like I said before, really enjoyed this movie. Really enjoyed the dynamics again of Team Avatar interacting with each other and them as older individuals. Uh, yeah, I did like to. We got a little bit more of the Lion Turtles lore. A bit more of like this is a place where they come to die. Yeah, the fights are great. The Ang's journey through this movie is incredible. And there are also got like some cool emotional moments with like a flashback of like the flashback is basically telling Ang you got to let something go, you got to let things go as well. I think is I always forget his teacher's name when he was at the temple. Uh, Kai no, but you guys know what I'm talking about. The monk at the temple that sort of was like Aang's first teacher. Like he had some other cool lines in a flashback to sort of help Aang move on from being the forgiving himself or not being there to save the Airbenders. But yeah, that being said, really enjoyed this movie. I would recommend if you're an Avatar Airbender fan to definitely see this movie. It's really good. And I think if you I know there's a decent amount of people that do not like the live action show. I mean like if you don't like this I think if you don't like the live action show but you still want to watch Team Avatar, this is for you. I think you would really enjoy this movie. Um I mean, I do also enjoy the live action show, but like, if you want the team avatar that you like got in the OG series, I think this movie is definitely where you would find them. That being said, give me your thoughts of the movie, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.